Hi, everybody. Hey, I'm Alex Trembath. I'm the Deputy Director of the Breakthrough Institute, one of the hosts of Abundance 2025. Thank you very much. As several other people have said, really everyone I've talked to, it's really incredible to see the size and scope of this crowd tonight. It's been a real pleasure to get to know my esteemed colleagues in what we now know is the Abundance movement over the last few years. I think it was like 3 years ago that a bunch of us started talking about what it would look like and the work that it would do in the world to convene this nascent, tenuous thing called Abundance. I was happy to help launch the first Abundance conference in DC last year, and I'm just really stunned and really happy and just inspired to look over this room and see what has become of this conference and this coalition and how quickly it's grown just in the last few years. Because I know that many of us amongst the co-hosts, and I know many of you in this room and the sponsors who have been working in housing and energy and governance and tech and other spaces, we feel like we've been doing Abundance for a long time, long before there was a movement or a coalition or a book or a word. Breakthrough, where I work, was founded over almost 20 years ago to create an environmentalism that builds. I think our sort of longest lasting co-host is the Federation of American Scientists, which was founded many decades ago and represents a critical undercurrent of abundance, which is the liberatory power of science and technology. What we now think of as state capacity has been building momentum for years, drawing ideas from dynamism and civic tech reform. And I know my YIMBY friends feel like they've been doing housing abundance for over a decade at this point. Well-deserved whoop. And have really set the high watermark, I think, for what a sort of mass appeal, grassroots, boots on the ground abundance activism can look like. I like to say that abundance factions use different nouns but similar verbs: build, densify, unleash, expand. But what I think brings us together is not just a generic vocabulary or even a broadly shared agenda. I think we face just an entirely new, unprecedented set of challenges in American society and culture. It was one thing to build an abundant society at the dawn of the Industrial Revolution or in the New Deal or in the Great Society. But today, abundance faces novel, unprecedented headwinds, and I don't think it's just NIMBYs and degrowthers. Incumbency dynamics, regulatory bloat from decades of administrative inertia and regulatory accretion, technological stagnation, what economists call cost disease effects that have made it difficult to deploy effective state capacity to afford essential labor-intensive goods and services like education and healthcare, have made it hard to imagine, let alone build a future that is more technologically advanced and, well, more abundant than our own. And I think that's why we're all here, because exceptional circumstances brought us together. Now, I feel a need to mention a certain revolving door project report that was released today. I have to say, even accounting for my pro-abundance bias, I'm left a little nonplussed by much of the criticism of abundance. So the American Prospect described this coalition, literally many of the groups in this room, in pretty conspiratorial terms, writing a few months ago, suggestively that our groups, quote, have connections to corporate interest with, quote, financial ties to crypto, AI, big tech, and oil, unquote. A writer for The New International accused the Abundance Coalition of employing a, quote, astroturf strategy. And just this morning, this report from the Revolving Door Project wrote, quote, on the people and orgs behind this movement, hopefully shedding some light on this mysterious bunch. Very mysterious crowd here. And the implication of all this criticism to me is clear, that abundance is not a legitimate movement. And if I leave you with one takeaway tonight, I hope it's this, that accusation is totally categorically false. Abundance is not some astroturfed conspiracy. In fact, just the opposite. Abundance is emergent. Abundance is bottom up. We were not herded and orchestrated. We found each other. The people and ideas in this room pull on different strands from multiple fields: think tanks, activists, organizers, elected officials, journalists, philanthropists, technologists, innovators, entrepreneurs, investors, and multiple ideological traditions: liberalism, classical and otherwise; urbanism, supply-side progressivism; state capacity libertarianism; industrial conservative populism; eco-modernism; humanism; effective altruism, and beyond. There are, as we learned this morning, many varieties of abundance. We're all here not because we agree on everything that our corporate overlords tell us to believe, but to do the messy work of figuring out what unites us across differences, and to figure out how we can collaborate to solve real-world problems, real material problems, and whether this audacious thing called abundance can meaningfully change American politics and culture. We each have our own story of how we got into this room. And the reason you know it's not some AstroTurf conspiracy is because I don't think any of us knows exactly where it's going next. Last week, I had to pause Marshall's podcast with Steve Tellis because he said something I found so inspiring. He said, because abundance, quote, is so unsettled, people can actually contribute. And to me, that's what's exciting and vital about abundance and about the crowd of people in this room. My contribution, I hope, is that I've dedicated my career to modernizing environmental politics for the 21st century. Your contribution may be quite different from mine. But if anything could bring together nuclear and solar advocates, housing activists, scientists, AI researchers, state capacity reformers, congressional representatives, and comptrollers, and beyond, it would have to be an idea as capacious and compelling as abundance. So with that said, I want to set the stage for our main conversation tonight, for which I'm going to bring up my friend and partner in the environmental wing of the Abundance Coalition, Chris Barnard from the American Conservation Coalition. But before I do that, one last note of gratitude. Thank you. Thank you for your time, and thank you for contributing. Now please join me in welcoming Chris to the stage.